Okay, we're doing 6 watercolor techniques, and you saw me open up my sketchbook. I put a little clamp to keep it open, and now I'm putting down the washi tape to make some nice crisp lines. Being a little haphazard about it, as you'll see in a second. This stuff comes up really easily though, so don't worry if you don't quite get it right. Yes, not even, but see how easily that comes up? And we'll get it kind of close. All right, smooth everything down. Next thing we're going to do is see that little eyedropper there? It makes it a little easy to activate our watercolors. I just put a few drops in each pan and I wait about 35 seconds to a minute, just depends. This is the wet on wet technique. I use my flat brush and load it up really good. See how wet that is? And we're just laying down the water on that first panel, just water. Now we're going to pick up a color, load up that brush again. It's pretty intense, and we're just dropping the color down wherever we feel like it. And big treat, I'm going to use another color, yellow. So yellow and magenta, it mixes up kind of nice. My handy dandy dryer. It takes a while to dry this, especially if it's really wet. All right, this next technique is the wash, basic wash. And you can do this wet on wet or wet on dry. I'm using green, and the main focus here is to get the wash as even as possible. It only takes a couple strokes. Just keep on going over it until it looks even. Use the dryer to go over it. And I'm going to use I'm going to add on to this another wash in the same color, a little more intense. Same technique, just go over it until it's even. You can dry off your brush and pick up any extra color if it gets too soaked. Bonus, third wash. And I'm going to dry it off, and that is the wash technique. All right, third technique is wet on dry. And we do a basic wash first. We did this in orange, as you can see. Dry that up. And now I'm switching brushes to a little round brush. And I'm going to pick up my orange again and just lay down a design on top of the wash. And the color here should be pretty intense. You've got to load up the brush, kind of roll it in the watercolor until you have a really intense color on it. And I'm adding little leaves. If you were just to do this on your own, you could make a little bookmark out of it, or a border for a picture, or just for fun. technique on this page. We're going to take our round brush and scumble. Scumble, I have no idea why they call it that. But all it is taking the round brush, dipping it in some color, and just kind of laying it down, kind of pressing that round brush into the paper and making a textural type of design. So what I'm doing there is I'm not filling it in completely, letting the watercolor do its thing. Some of those blotches are dark, some of them are light, some have a gradation on them. You can leave it one color, or hey, I'm adding another one. But the idea here is to convey a sense of texture. And you'll see that in our sunset project. We'll use the scumbling technique to create the leaves on the trees. Oh, bonus third color. Make sure you, when you do this, use colors that are complementary. You don't want to get your watercolors, let your watercolors get muddy. And that is scumbling. All right, we're gonna turn the page. And remember, oh, before we turn the page, we're gonna take our tape off. This is the most satisfying part in a lot of ways. You gotta be super careful when you take that tape off. Make sure that you don't go too fast. This recording, I've sped it up to twice the speed. So don't go too fast, otherwise you'll rip your paper. You don't want to do that. You did a lot of work. Oh, we're going to take our pen and write down what we just did. So first was wet on wet, wash, wet on dry, and scumbling. Let's turn the page. Remember, this is practice, so it's okay if you use the back side of the watercolor paper. Remember, this side, the back side of any piece of watercolor paper is not going to take the watercolor as well as the front side. The front side's going to be a little bumpier, but again, this is practice. Here's my handy dandy clip. This next technique is it's complicated. It's a little more complicated. This is a gradation. So I start off doing that with a blue, and we're going to lay down a really intense band of color up top. Use clean water to wash the brush and lay down just water underneath that intense band and let it run down. Oh, no, I didn't do that. I put yellow on the bottom. Oh, okay, I'm getting complicated here. So yellow on the bottom, and now the wash of water in the middle. So now the yellow and the blue are going to run into each other, and you can help it along here. I'm helping it along. I'm picking up extra color, using a lot of water to make sure it's a smooth gradient. Watercolor is pretty forgiving. You can add water to lift up any intense areas. You can lay down more color. See what I'm doing is sort of smoothing down that intense blue part. Gotta know when to stop. A gradient. Last technique is the dry brush, and you can see what I'm doing. I'm drying my brush, and how do you know how dry? That dry. See how the bristles sort of separate? That's how dry we want. And when you pick up the color, you don't want to soak the brush, so I'll show how much color it should be. Pretty intense, but not soaked. Oop, let me see it. And that is it. You got to play around with it. Again, you've got a really nice texture with a dry brush technique. Taking off the tape. Slowly. And then labeling. All right. Wasn't that fun? Thank you for watching.